What's going on there, guys? We're back with another one, and I want to talk about this conversation surrounding Tyreek Hill that took place between Kimberly Martin and Stephen A. Smith this morning on First Take, as Kimberly Martin became very agitated with Stephen A. Smith's take. And Tyreek made some comments recently saying that he could have been better, but he said the officers was disrespectful towards him and his teammates and they were excessive. And I don't think anyone is disputing that the officers became excessive after the fact. I think what or the message that some of the people that have opposed Tyreek has been saying um is the way he acted. We need to have a conversation about that too to give ourselves the best chance to make it home. Not guaranteeing you'll make it home. We obviously seen videos where police are excessive for no reason and they pulled up with the intent to do harm to someone of color. But at the same time, you want to give yourself the best probability to go home. You don't want to do what Tyreek Hill did. And an argument can be made that Tyreek Hill, as bad as the video was, an argument can be made that he was able to be let go and go play in the game the same day because he was Tyreek Hill. So, you could look at it both ways. You could say that's messed up, but you could also make an argument that if it was me or you, we not leaving that scene, or at the very least, we're gonna be detained and taken in. But yeah, man, let's get into this argument. Let's react to this.
They'll say I could have been better. I could have let down my window, in that instant. But the thing about me is, man, I I don't want attention. I don't want to be like cameras out, phones on you, in that moment. But at the end of the day, I'm human. I gotta follow rules. I gotta, you know, do what everyone else would do. So now, does that give them the right to literally beat the dog out of me? Absolutely not. He got to go, man. Cause in that instant right there, like not only did he treat me bad, what I'm saying, he also treated my teammates with, disrespect. He had some crazy words towards them, and they ain't even do nothing. Like, what did they do to you? They just walking on the sidewalk.
And told Jason, Kimberly,
Yep.
roll down your windows, put your hand on the steering wheel, okay? And don't mouth off at the police officer. You know, the police officer who's a law enforcement official, who has a gun, who has a taser, who has a bulletproof vest, and is at complete advantage over you at that particular moment in time. Do everything that you can not to exacerbate the situation. When Tyreek Hill was pulled over, he left his windows up. The officer had to knock on the window. And he rolled it down a little bit and said, don't knock on my window like that. Don't knock on my window like that. Don't knock on my window like that. What did the officer say? Well, if you had your window down, I wouldn't have had to knock on the window. If you had it down. And everything took off from there. He could have handled things better. And the reason why that's important is because times that we're living in, it's not an exaggeration to say this. Tyreek Hill could have got himself killed. When you have that window up, they don't know what's on the other side of that window. You don't know how they would have reacted. So thank God everybody's safe and not additional harm came to the situation. But I'm very, very happy he acknowledged that he could have handled the situation better because he should have handled the situation better for his own sake, as well as those out there who look up to him and might want to emulate his actions.
Now, I've gotten on Stephen A. Smith time after time on this channel when they said something that I don't agree with. And he's right to have his opinion, or he has his right to have his opinion. I got my right to have mine. But what he just said right there, I don't see any issue with. He acknowledged that it went overboard with the cops, but also Tyreek Hill himself came out and said he could have been better in that situation. Now, he said some other things, but He also said that he could have been better, and that's responsible because you got children watching children looking up to Cheetah Hill, wanting to be just like him, wanting to be the player like him, wanting to drive the car that he was pulled over in, all types of stuff. But you could see Kimberly Martin's body language starting to change as Stephen A. continued to talk. She's a blinker and a head mover and a facial expression shower when she feels a way about a topic. So you could see this coming and brewing. So let's listen to what she had to say.
I do think that it was very mature of Tyreek Hill to give those comments yesterday. I think things can always seem clearer with the benefit of hindsight. However, my issue lies with the fact that so many people, unlike Tyreek Hill, didn't have the benefit of hindsight. What should I have done differently? Ooh, if I had not done this, because they're not here to tell their story. The issue here is excessive use of force. I understand that, we can talk about the window, we can talk about all these things, but ultimately, the reason the body cam video and what we saw on Twitter Sunday morning, why it affected so many of us that way is because of how physical they were with him, how when he seemed to be compliant, how he was still treated. And so I think when I hear especially older generations talk about how to protect yourself, because these are the times we're living in, what that advice, while I understand it, it doesn't get to the root of the issue. It's we have to now brace ourselves for the world that is unfair. We have to change our behavior as opposed to talking about what the issue is. The world shouldn't be like that. Police officers, and again, I have tons of police officers in my family, friends, all that, but they are trained for these situations in a way that civilians are not. We don't know what it's like to be. It's panic. That is what we feel, right, in those moments. And as a black woman, that video is triggering for me to watch, especially when I sit down next to other black men and watch it. Because you can talk about how Tyreek should have done this had he not done that. Philando Castile, we have so many names of people who don't have the benefit of being able to say, in that moment, I wish I had done something different because their lives were taken. And so I get what Stephen's saying, but it's still, even for me as a woman, when older generations tell you, oh, don't dress a certain way because you don't want somebody to take advantage of you on the street. You don't, and that advice, while I understand it, it's not about what I'm wearing. It's about how about we figure out why is somebody trying to take advantage of me. That's the issue, not necessarily the dress, not necessarily the window, in my opinion.
Yeah, when we're
So here comes the aggression. Stephen A is simply trying to say we got to take the proper precautions to give ourselves the best chance because we already know those factors exist. So saying that it should be one way doesn't negate the fact that it exists. So I guess my thing that I'm saying to you all is you have to determine what's more important. Taking a stand for what should exist in this situation, because sometimes it's worth it, like our ancestors did for us. So yes, you do take stances that could be potentially fatal, but is like thinking about your family, thinking about everything else, is going off, rolling your window up on the cop, all that worth you not making it back home to your family? I guess to each his own, right? Some people think it is. Some people gonna stand on how it should be. But again, I don't think Tyreek, he wasn't even within bounds, to defend. It's common knowledge that you don't make yourselves like he rolled his window down, said don't knock on my window like that, and rolled it back up. You don't make yourself not visible to cops, and I think the only reason he got away with that was he was Tyreek Hill. I think if it had been me or you, we got blasted in that situation. Um, because you in the car, they saying they can't see you. Hey, they gonna do what they gotta do. But they knew that was Tyreek Hill, and they knew it wouldn't have went well for them to do such a thing. Kimberly is talking, and let me address her other point. She said when old people say it's about what you wearing and all that, um, you shouldn't be attacked. I don't think nobody should be attacked, females that is, for what they're wearing. So I'm gonna be clear on that. I think And you talk to some of the older women, some of the things they've been subjected to, they've cried out and no one helped them, or they didn't believe them, or a pastor did something and nobody believes them, or if they believe them, they want to keep it hush and they want to. They telling you from that experience, right? They not telling you, just don't look for people that is a different race from you. No, they saying this is uncles, older cousins, and all kinds of stuff that has done this. Um, from my experience, listening to the older people talk, some of the things they went through is horrible, and it be your own people that be done did it. So her example there, based off what I've heard older women say, just wear something that isn't as inviting because people are crazy out here. You know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of precautionary more than it's trying to tell you what to do. It's not about what she's saying. It's about the factors that exist out there and how to navigate those, not how it should be. Because we're not in a perfect world. We got all kinds of evil people around us. So how do you navigate that, right? And it's kind of the same thing with the officers. We know bad officers exist, but sometimes you might have a good officer that uses excessive force, um, because again they got to make it home too. They're trained and they're people, but they also have to make judgment calls, right? Because you, in a real world situation, it's not a perfect science, so you don't want to do anything that leaves it in their hands. Is all I'm saying. Let's continue.
Right? He didn't say he wanted all of them fired. He said that one officer who dragged me out of that car the way that he did. Guess what? He's alive to highlight. It was that officer right there. It wasn't all of them. It was him. Okay, now we know. But what happened? He was able to get through the situation. I'm saying to you, we can't ignore the fact that what we're asking for is unlikely not going to happen in a lot of situations. Most, yes, it will. Some, yes, it will. But in a lot more cases than not, what we believe should exist does not. And at the end of the day, I would rather us sit in front of the camera, in front of a microphone, on a podium, post-game, post-practice conference, or everything else, rather than somebody else speaking for us because we're in a coffin 6 feet under. Because we put ourselves, because an officer that is not inclined to do what he was trained to do, we knew it all along, and we still gonna antagonize him anyway.
Doesn't change my stance on supporting what he is saying about how he was treated with the excessive force. That is my only argument here. What he said yesterday does not change how I watched that video and how angry I was, not just for me as a black person in America, but also the black men that I know, that I love, that are in my family, that are my friends, because that is a real fear. That is a real fear for.
So that was Kimberly Martin's take. I'm gonna cut it right there, guys. The discussion. Jason McCourty had some things to add in there. Molly didn't even agree all the way with Kimberly, and she got even more agitated. But I wanted to put that out there, man, because I wanted you guys to really see that and analyze that for yourself. Now, of course, some people gonna say I'm wrong for even opposing anything that a black person has done, and I'm supposed to be black. We all supposed to be black. All that. I just want you to make it home or give yourself the best chance to make it home. Are we gonna see more jacked up things you can point to and say, "See, this is why it don't matter what we do"? Yes, we will have incidents like that in the future, and we will see it on camera. We get to see these things on camera now. Were there more incidents of this before this era that we live in? Absolutely. When um, back when during segregation and all that, imagine what wasn't captured on body cam footage back then, and how they just took their word for it back then. At least now sometimes we can see what really happened, and some of these officers can get in trouble. Back then they had no justice back then. So not trying to say it's right now what some of the cops did, and I admit that it was excessive. Um, just plain old me had a cop come up to my car, uh, very agitated, and I think I was only doing like, I ain't gonna say only, but I was speeding a little bit. Probably was doing like 55 and a 35 or something like that. Cop came up, knocking on the window, and said, "Man, you know how fast you were going?" And his voice, he was inflecting it in an aggressive way. I was like, "Nah, let me know." Um, he said, "You were doing 50, about 55, 57 and a 35." I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "My bad, man. I was trying to get to work, a little bit late, running behind." And so he walks back to his car, and this has happened a couple times. One time I got a warning ticket. Other time I got a real ticket, and I really didn't need a ticket at that time, man. Yeah, I think I probably was working at like a grocery store or something like that back then. Didn't really have the funds. Um, Worried about points on your license and different things. So I was extremely stressed. I wasn't like Tyreek Hill that could just pay it off and whatever. But moral of the story is I got to go home that day, and he said, and this is the day that I got the ticket. He said, just slow it down, man. And you don't even be wanting to hear no well wishes from them when they give you a ticket, because you be like, man, you could have just gave me a warning if you're going to give me a ticket. Or if you want to say anything positive to me, just give me a warning, and then I want to hear more of the positive you got to say. But I conducted myself properly, made the officer feel at ease, where he didn't have to draw his weapon, and went on about my merry way. And yeah, the ticket and all that stuff was stressful, not making the money like that, but I ended up living through that, and it's a reminder for me to slow down in that area. I still slow down in that area to this day. And my point is, I just made the officer feel at ease. Um, Again, one time in high school, I was coming home from work. I was working at a grocery store back then, and I got stopped at a light. I made a right, went across the train tracks, went through a stop sign, and the cops pulled me over again, like back to back. Like it was literally like 2 minutes later they pulled me over. And I could have been agitated then because I could have said, y'all just pulled me over right back there. But, I didn't. Made them feel at ease, got home in my mama's car at that point, so I definitely don't need to act a fool. Um, and thank God I'm here to tell that. I'm sure some people did everything right and still got shot. We see it on camera too. Our point in saying that you need to conduct yourself properly isn't to ensure anything, it's to increase the probability that you might make it home. To navigate this wicked world that we live in, man. I want to know which take you guys agree with the most, Kimberly Martin or Stephen A. Smith. Beat it up in the comments. Let me know, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till next time, peace.